Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Jamie McQuaid with Magnet Forensics, and today we're going to talk about digging deeper with Magnet AXIOM 1.1. So we released 1.1 recently, and we've made some pretty good headway into adding new features, new artifacts, and so that's what we're going to talk about here. With me I have Geoff MacGilivray, who is our VP of Product. Who's going to go through and show us these features. Unfortunately, Jad was supposed to do this, but he's become sick this week, so unfortunately, you know, you're stuck with Geoff, but it's a good alternative. So just some logistics to start out is this webinar is being recorded, so feel free to check out our website. Usually we have it up within 24, 48 hours on our website, so you can actually view the recording afterwards if there was anything you missed or you want to follow up on. That's usually pretty easy to find, and usually the attendees get a reminder notification when that goes out as well. If you do have any questions, we've got about an hour allotted here. So generally what we'll do is we'll spend 40, 45 minutes or so talking about the product, demoing everything, and then we'll save the last 15, 20 minutes or so for any questions you might have. Feel free to use the questions or the chat boxes in GoToWebinar and ask your questions. We'll probably save them all to the end, but feel free to ask those questions at any time, and we'll keep an eye on those as we go through it. With that in mind, I'll pass it over to Geoff and he can get started.
Thanks, Jamie. And thanks to everybody online for joining us today on the presentation. As Jamie mentioned, Jad was planning on doing this, but he's out of the office ill, so you've got me instead, and hopefully I can step into Jad's shoes for you today. So our topic is digging deeper with Magnet AXIOM 1.1. And we're going to talk about, you know, Magnet AXIOM 1.1 and some of the things that we've done over the past year in AXIOM. It's about a year since we've launched AXIOM, so there's a lot of good things we've added into the product, and we added a lot of great features in 1.1, so we'll do some discussions on that, and we'll also do some demos so you can see the product in action. So there's two things I want to just talk about before we dive into the product itself. Magnet Forensics, I'm sure a lot of you know us for IDF, you know, which is one of our, you know, most, you know, centered tools that we offer, and AXIOM has been out for a year. Both AXIOM and IEF take what we refer to as an artifact-first approach. When IEF first came out in the computer industry, it was one of the few computer tools to focus in on application data or recovering artifacts. And what we certainly learned and got feedback from our users is that taking an artifact-first approach often can lead to much more efficient case analysis. By taking a look at that structured data that are in the artifacts concerning the applications themselves, you can often find relevant evidence very quickly. What AXIOM did was take that artifact-first approach and then take it to another level. It added the ability to validate that evidence through the file system or the registry. But we're still hearing, certainly from our users, that by starting in the artifacts first, they get a much more structured view of the evidence, can hone into the most relevant details as quickly as possible, and then validate. So we firmly believe that, you know, being strong in artifacts, which we continue to do, and starting your investigation in artifacts is a key part of successful investigations. The other thing that we've done for quite some time now is combine computer and mobile into one case. We certainly started off in computer, but several years ago we started looking at mobile. And the interesting thing about mobile, and we field this question fairly often, is why do you do mobile? And the interesting thing about the modern mobile device is they're smartphones. They are really computers. We've been very familiar with different computer operating systems, the way applications store data, and we often find both in the computer and mobile operating systems that data is stored differently. So our artifact-first approach applies very well with mobile, and we've gotten lots of positive feedback from our users about our ability to recover mobile artifacts and also view them alongside the computer evidence. So combining a computer case with a mobile case so that you get a more comprehensive view of the evidence. We were chatting the other day here at the office how, you know, certainly to get a holistic view of someone's communications, you really need to look at all mobile devices, all sort of computing devices that they're using. I certainly use a different set of chat applications on my computer than I do on my mobile device. combining them gives me a holistic view of my communications. By just focusing in on one, you're sort of missing half of the communications that somebody may have. So I mentioned, I talked a little bit about Magnet AXIOM on the previous slide. As I said, it's really an artifacts-first digital investigation platform. So we recognize that IEF was used by a lot of our customers alongside their file forensics tools, and there was a good synergy between them. What AXIOM did was take that artifacts-first approach to a whole nother level, so that you can, once you identify the evidence that's relevant to your case, you can seamlessly jump through what we call source linking to the source views, the file system view, and the registry view, so we can see the raw evidence there and validate it. We also really wanted to focus in on the collaboration aspects around AXIOM and being able to share those findings with other stakeholders, whether that be investigators, detectives, and prosecutors. So with Magnet AXIOM, we wanted to introduce a complete investigation platform, because that's what we're hearing from a lot of our users. Artifacts are great, but they're often jumping out into other tools. We certainly recognize that you want to validate your tools with other tools, but this allows you to get a real confidence in results because you can validate them quickly. And you probably want to verify with another tool, but staying within one tool increases the effectiveness of your investigations. Now, we launched about a year ago, and at Magnet we take an approach where we develop software using an agile methodology. And what that means is we really value our customer feedback, and we listen to that feedback. And what we want to do is iterate on that feedback and improve our product on a regular basis. We don't believe that we should fix a bug or add a feature and have to wait for, say, several months if you're on a quarterly or potentially 6-month release schedule for that value to be delivered to our customers. So we deliver monthly here, and over the past year, we've had 12 releases of IEF and 12 releases of AXIOM for a total of 24. So we're in a monthly cycle to make sure that we're delivering value to our customers as quickly as possible, and we can respond to the feedback that's coming into the company. In addition, we certainly want to keep up with updates within artifacts in the industry. We know certainly in mobile that artifacts change on a regular basis. I don't know about you, but I feel every time I'm looking down at my phone, I'm getting a new update for one of my apps. Some of those updates are quite innocent, maybe just cosmetic changes to the apps, but sometimes it changes, the app changes the underlying data structure that's present on the device, and that can break compatibility with some of the artifacts that we've initiated, shared in our product. So the ability to adjust and correct those artifacts as quickly as possible is also very beneficial. Now, one of the things that we heard from our customer base is around performance of AXIOM. When we launched AXIOM, we knew it was a little bit slower than IEF. It was a little bit slower because it was doing more. We were now looking more in depth at the file system itself, and we were also doing some indexing around artifacts. I know a lot of tools do indexing out there, but we were looking at the use case around searching within the artifact view and having the searching and filtering functions being responsive within artifacts. So what we've done within AXIOM is we've indexed all the artifacts so that those functions are much more responsive than they were in IEF. And focusing in on that value allows you to get to the evidence that you want to get to much quicker. But we listened to you when we said, even though we said that we're doing more with AXIOM, the feedback came in that we needed AXIOM to be faster. And I think that was a real challenge that we presented to our engineering team. And again, it wasn't one silver bullet that allowed us to improve the performance of AXIOM, but we steadily worked on it over the course of this year. I've got some graphs up here on the screen. The one on the left is AXIOM versus IEF, and I should say the background of this is we have about 50 test images that we run on every software release, or every software build for that matter, to test how fast these images run and how many hits that we get out. This is a large computer image that we run actually from SANS, and we've charted the speed at which AXIOM and IEF process that image over the year. In blue line is AXIOM. You can see over the course of the year it drops, and then it comes up, and then it drops again. The reason that it comes back up is we actually are adding more artifact support there, and you can see increases of hit count, which is the gray bars on the graph to the right. But then we didn't accept that, we were finding more hits, but it was a little bit slower, so we got some further enhancements into the product there. So we're constantly working on performance and making it faster. And really, we just don't want to make it faster because we love, Axiom being fast. We want to make it really fast so that, it processes evidence as quickly as possible so you can start seeing the results as quickly as possible. Again, just getting results in your hands as quickly as possible so that you can solve your cases. Time is critical, and we recognize that. In addition, we're faced with the challenge of, we want to find more artifacts, and as we add more artifacts or make them more complete, you are going to get more hits. So it's always the balance between finding more hits and speed, and we're certainly trying to get you more hits, but also make it faster. So it's a fun challenge for the engineering team, or at least I think it's a fun challenge for them. And in summary, you can see the improvements over the year. On our large computer images, Axiom is now 30% faster than it was last spring. So if you tried Axiom last spring, and you weren't necessarily happy with the performance, please come back and give it another try. We've got lots of enhancements in the product, and one of the big ones is performance. The other thing that we've done over the past year is certainly that focus on artifacts, and we're not deviating from this focus. We get asked a lot about this in terms of our product development, but our largest engineering team is our artifact team, and they're really focused on introducing and maintaining the artifacts that we have. Over the past year, we introduced 270 new or updated artifacts. And here's some of the broad categories that we've focused on. Certainly chat and social has been a focus area for some time. We understand that communications are very important in cases, and seeing those gives you a real feel for what's happening in a lot of investigations. Encryption as well. Encryption is an overlay on a lot of these categories. We put a big focus in on encrypted applications recently, whether that's WhatsApp or Signal or KakaoTalk. Getting that encrypted app data is also pretty important. IoT is another area that we've looked at extensively. It certainly is a big buzzword in terms of the growth, because it's one of those big areas where there's so many endpoints out there that may be collecting data, and this is becoming more and more relevant to forensic cases. Certainly we focused on IoT devices that are connected to mobile devices. It seems to be the biggest impact in terms of forensic investigations, things like the Pebble Watch or the Nest thermometer. So we introduced those in last fall. Peer-to-peer is ever-increasing focus, especially on mobile. We see more and more peer-to-peer on mobile, and focusing in there is important. Browsers as well, maintaining the computer browsers as well as moving to mobile browsers. It's always shocking when you look at the number of mobile browsers out there. You think there's just a couple, but there's actually a significant amount, and it's good to dive in there and understand, what alternate browsers, users may be utilizing. Finally, pictures. Pictures has been a continual focus for the teams, and really when we get into regular releases, I don't think there's a release that goes by that doesn't have some kind of picture enhancement. We're covering a lot more picture formats over the past year, and we're also looking at a lot more embedded containers, whether those are zip files, RARs. We're looking at our support there and expanding it with almost every release. We understand that those pictures may be contained in those compressed containers, and the more we expand formats for those, the more pictures we're getting out of the evidence itself. So in terms of Axiom 1.1, I'm going to talk about 3 different features here, and then I'm going to demo them at once, and then we'll pop back into the slides and then back into the demo. But one of the big things that we heard from a lot of our customers and users over the past year was the ability to have a seamless flow around full disk encryption. We were definitely hearing that you had to jump out to another tool to do that disk decryption, and it was kind of breaking up the processing stages of your evidence and making that flow not as efficient as you'd like it. So we've, with Magnet AXIOM 1.1, partnered with Passware. They certainly have best-in-class decryption and technology, and we've integrated their full disk decryption technology into Axiom. We start with BitBlocker and TrueCrypt. If you know the password, you can insert in, And we're not going to be stopping there. We're going to be expanding support to other full disk encryption types as well as encrypted files. So that's coming, but the initial version is in. As you see in the Agile demo, we tried to make it a seamless part of the flow as possible. So it's integrated right into the product. Next up is an interesting paradigm shift for us. IEF and Axiom were for a long time wizard-like tools that took, should I say, a linear type flow where you could, add your evidence in, process it, and then examine it, and then create your report. There wasn't a lot of loop back to add new evidence to a case or do additional processing on evidence. With Axiom 1.1, you can now go through and say process a computer image. If a mobile phone or another computer becomes relevant to the case, you can then now jump back and add those evidence items to your case and have them processed either the same or differently from the original evidence items. So this is the first step that I talk, first sort of step in terms of being able to reprocess or add evidence to a case. We'll be building this out to be able to run subsequent analysis features on the same evidence item so that maybe you want to go through your first flow in more of a triage type arrangement where you're only looking at certain things and then move back and do a more complete processing step. So this is the start of that reprocessing work, but we feel like this is a good area for people to add additional evidence back to the case. I talked about conversation or chat views in a previous slide, and this has been a big focus area for us. Certainly we've heard that visualizing data is so important, not just for examiners, but investigators, prosecutors, because it gives a real feel for communications that are happening between individuals that you're looking at in a case. But being able to tag and comment on the relevant chat items is such an important feature, not just the visualization. So we incorporated what we call a conversation view into Axiom, and that allows you to look at those chat threads in a more native fashion that is very integrated and allows you to tag and comment individual messages. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the demo itself and touch on each of these features. So I've just jumped into Magnet AXIOM Examine. So Axiom, for those that aren't familiar with it, has two main components, Axiom Process and Axiom Examine. Axiom Process is where you define your search and processing steps, and Axiom Examine is where you view the results. You're looking here at Axiom Examine. This is a familiar home view for many that are using the product. And it contains evidence from actually both a computer and a mobile evidence source. You can see here that our artifacts are along the left-hand side of the screen. Oops, it's up here. We've got a view, a central view, which we call our evidence pane, which shows all the artifacts within the case. I've got all evidence selected, so all artifacts are shown here. And you can switch up that view as well, and I'll show you how to switch it up and when I jump into conversation view. And this is what we call the details pane, which shows details of the evidence item that I actually have selected in the evidence pane. So if I jump into here, I can move to a variety of different views. There's a classic view which rearranges the windows for what would be more of an IEF look and feel. There's conversation view, which I'll jump to, histogram, row view, thumbnail view, which is very helpful for pictures, timeline, which is a visualization of timeline, and world map, which of course is a geographical representation of the data. So moving to conversation view, which is one of the performance improvements in Axiom, you'll see that now the screen is showing not individual artifact items, but more chat threads themselves. So these are, we've taken chat messages and grouped them based on how they're recovered according to their chat thread. So we've now got a view of that chat thread itself. And if I jump into one of these threads, you can see a preview showing a lot of the chat messages that are part of that thread. Now what we've done is added in the conversation view the ability to now expand that chat thread out. So you can see the preview here. I'll just shrink that a little bit so the preview shows up a little bit more. but I can also see all the individual messages in that chat thread. So I can select, if I select that message here, you can see it selected within the preview window. So again, fairly intuitive. I can also tag that message itself and say it's of interest. I can also put a comment on that. So again, we wanted the look and feel of this to be familiar with other sort of email or chat programs where you can see the threads grouped appropriately, being able to drill into those messages and comment on them, as well as being able to visualize them. So we felt that was very important. You can also see here we've had the ability to see details associated with the chat message itself. This is the individual message I've selected. If I select the entire chat thread, I'll see a details card that is representative of the entire chat thread itself in terms of the number of the number of participants, their display names, as well as the number of chat messages in the message itself. So very useful for summary type views that you may want to use in your report. You can see here if I scroll down within this view that all the chat messages within the actual that we've recovered are shown here. It may vary in terms of the number of messages that are contained within. This is just an artifact of the evidence that we've looked at. Now jumping back into, I'll jump back in my column view just to reset a little bit here. We talked about adding evidence to new evidence of the case. So this is a mobile phone and a computer item that are part of this case. But let's just say I have a computer image that I've just obtained that is relevant to the case. And let's just say it's BitLocker encrypted. So I've got that image. I'm going to jump back here and I'll say I want to add new evidence to this case. It's going to open an instance of Axiom process. We'll just wait until it opens up because I've already taken my image of my BitLocker encrypted drive. And you can see here's the original case information that the mobile phone and computer that were part of the case were taken under. I can't edit that because that's just part of the case. If this was a new case, I could edit that. And you can notice this is now scan 2. The original scan was, of course, scan 1. If I go to my evidence sources, I know it's a computer image I want to load. I want to load it in, not acquire it. I'm going to go to an image, and you can see there's my BitLocker encrypted raw image. Now, if I select that and open it up, you can see that the partition 1 is encrypted, and it's shown by the locked item there. And that's indicating that it's encrypted to me. So I've got a visual cue. If I hit next here, it prompts me for a password. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, should I say our bad path first. I'm going to say password 1. The actual password is password, but I'm going to put the wrong one in just to show you what happened. When I do that, and then click next, it's going to show me that the password wasn't correct. Now I'm going to have an option if I don't really know the password to continue without it, because there may be parts of that encrypted image that aren't encrypted. And even though it is encrypted and we won't be really able to recognize the file system, Axiom and IEF will carve through it. So if there are encrypted portions that hit on our carvers, we'll pull out that information. So sometimes it is still beneficial to run an encrypted image through IEF and Axiom, and we really don't depend on the file system. I can't guarantee that you'll find anything, but in some cases you certainly can get information out of it. In this case, I do know the password, so I'm going to hit try again. Go up here, I'll hit password, save that, and then when I hit next, I'll be presented with my selection screen, which means the decryption was successful. And I can define my search type however I'd like. Full, quick, sector level, I'm going to leave it at full. And then I just click next. And now I've got those added into my case. And you can see that this is an encrypted drive that I know the password on because the lock symbol is now unlocked. And then I can just go through the rest of my processing details, setting them up as I'd like, as well as my artifacts. You see here I can configure them as I want, and then I get down to my final step and I can click Analyze Evidence. And once that's analyzing, it will be adding evidence into the case that I just brought up. I'm not going to do that right now. It takes a little bit of time, but that's how you can add new evidence to a case. Let's jump back into the presentation. So one of the other features that we've added, and we're quite proud of this within Axiom 1.1, is Magnet.AI, which is really an industry-first AI application when it comes to contextual content analysis. And we focused around chat messages themselves. Again, you can see a theme around chat emerging because we recognize the importance of chats to a lot of cases. And so what we've done is we've looked at chats that contain luring messages. Certainly we recognize that that's a big focus within child exploitation cases. And we wanted to help our users drill down, or at least filter down to the most relevant chat threads as quickly as possible. You may have 100,000 messages in a case, tens of thousands of threads, and reviewing those by hand can be time consuming. If you're looking for evidence of luring, what Magnet AI does is it automatically goes through all the chat threads and identifies those chats that have potential luring content. So you can filter down your results to just, could be a few, could be tens, but much fewer chat threads than the original evidence. And that's where you can start. And if you find relevant evidence there, then you're off to the races in terms of the case. So we really wanted to do this because it's saving you time, and it's built into our product in a very seamless way. So it's integrated very intuitively into the product, and I'll demo that. We're not stopping here, though, in terms of luring. We're looking to expand that to other types of chat categories. Certainly we've heard from an early user of the product that they want to see more categories of chats run through AI as well as additional languages. But to be successful in that, we need partnerships with the industry because we need to understand what we call labeled data, so chats that are representative of different types. Whether that may be drugs, maybe that's distribution of images. If you have examples like that, we can train our models and then integrate them alongside the luring model and then run that. So if this is a feature of interest and you're interested in partnering with us, please reach out after this webinar. We're happy to talk about it. So I'm going to jump back into Examine, back into the case that we had talked about. I'm going to switch it up to another case. And this one here contains a number of chat messages. And you can see here there's, for sake of example, there's 3 threads here. We certainly have run this on cases with a lot more messages and a lot more threads. But we've run this case through and as an example to highlight some of the chat threads that are applicable. Now, what's nice here is if I go to my tags and comments filter, you can see here a number of stock tags that we have in terms of bookmark evidence of interest. But I also now have a possible luring tag. So if I click that and click OK, I'm going to be brought down a whole bunch of chat messages here. And if I actually go to conversation view, I'm filtered down to 2 chat conversations. And if I take that filter off, you can see I now have a whole bunch of chat threads. So instead of having to go through all those chat threads, if I use my filter again, go to possible luring, I'll drop down to 2. Now if I take a look at the first of those, and using my conversation view again, I'll expand it out, and I've done this advanced, so I'm going to jump down to a specific message to highlight this. So take a look here. You can start seeing the content that has triggered the luring category to be applied. And you can comment and tag in the conversation view of the relevance of this messages, relevance of this chat thread to your case. So again, just trying to make it simple for you to go through and identify the relevant evidence in a case. As I mentioned, we're not going to stop here. We're going to expand the categories that we cover in Magnet AI, and if you're interested in helping us out, please reach out to us. We're happy to take feedback and look for partners in this area. Now, the other thing that we launched just last week, I believe it was last week, last month has been a little bit of blur for me, is the Magnet Artifact Exchange. I had previously talked about our focus on artifacts and also the challenge of keeping those artifacts up to date as the number of apps not only grows but changes on a continual basis. And with Axiom, we actually introduced what we called custom artifacts. So you could write your own artifacts in XML. But our customers wanted more in that area. So we did two things around the Artifact Exchange. We enhanced the abilities to write your own artifacts within Axiom. And we've expanded from not only the XML format, but also to the Python, to include Python scripted artifacts. So think of your ability to write your own artifact, plug it into Axiom, and then have those artifact results appear alongside all the other Magnet-generated artifacts. So you've got a combined case that not only includes the artifacts that Magnet provides, but any that you have written, or potentially any that somebody in the community has written as well. And what the Artifact Exchange is, it's a community location. We recognize that there is this challenge around the growth of apps and how they're changing constantly. And we wanted to engage the community because it's one characteristic that I really appreciate about the forensic community is the ability to help. That is the characteristic everybody wants to help everybody else out. I mean, after all, we're trying to make a difference. And the community is not just for Magnet customers. It's for anybody. We wanted to make it open. We had feedback that making it open would be really beneficial. The artifacts, as they're defined, do run natively in Axiom, but there's nothing preventing you from being part of that community and understanding how data for a particular app is structured or being able to reuse a Python artifact. So really, it's a community that we built for forensic users, and it's meant to tackle the growing volume of apps. And what we want is we want to engage with people to build those artifacts and then share them so that everybody benefits from that. I have to say that, from XML to Python, we have a wide range of formats that can be used to create an artifact. The basic XML artifact can be created very quickly. Probably the biggest challenge is getting data, but literally an artifact can be created in a matter of minutes. And we've already had customers doing that. Certainly in some of the labs that we're demonstrating this on, the customers are shocked at how easy it is to create an artifact if you have the data or can find, say, a SQLite table. But we also recognize that there's some very powerful scripts out there, or some very talented individuals who can write a more complicated carver or script recovery of more complex databases, and that's certainly supported there. So it's accessible through our website. So if you go to a website, you can find links to the Magnet Artifact Exchange. You can go log in there, and like I said, it's not restricted to Magnet users. If you are a Magnet user, you can use your customer portal account to log in there, but otherwise just sign up and you can take a look at the artifacts that are there. And please contribute if you have the desire to write artifacts. I know leading up to the Exchange launch, we had a number of people internally writing artifacts, and it was quite a fun time, and I think everybody chipped in and wrote a few, and some are surprised, much as some of our customers are, at how easy they are to write and share. So just to recap, share the artifacts with the community, and we really want this to be a community success. So please, download and contribute, and look forward to your feedback here. One of the closing things I'll end up with is our focus on our users. Really, we want to be an innovative product, but we also want to be innovative in a way that meets our customer needs and meets the customer feedback. So I had talked about we develop using an agile methodology, and how using that methodology we release frequently, but we also rely on a lot of customer feedback and a lot of innovation from our users to define what we're going to do next in the product, because we want to deliver more than anything customer value to you. And if we don't hear from you, it's hard to deliver that customer value. So please keep the feedback coming, both good and bad. We're happy to hear both. I shouldn't say we're happy to hear both, but we're happy to hear good, but we always want to hear constructive feedback as well, because we do want to improve. So I know we have some time for questions, and so we're going to pause here, and I'll see if there's any questions, and we'll spend some time.
Yeah, we'll open it up here. If you if you guys do have any questions, use the questions boxes in the GoToWebinar, and we'll go through and answer them. It looks like there's one or two of them up there already, so we'll start with those. First one here. This one's a long one. So within Axiom, do you have the ability to view all communications, SMS, MMS, iMessage, Facebook, Message, Kik, Skype, all of the applications between a suspect and a specific contact, and view all of those communications in a conversation view or in chronological order? In other software, the different types of messages and chats are parsed out in different tables and make it difficult to view a complete conversation if the suspect is going back and forth between different chats or applications. Do you want me to jump on that one? I can do that one. Geoff covered a little bit of that already, but absolutely, that's something. If you flip back to the product, that's something we actually do quite well, and you do get both options there. So sometimes you're going to want to just view all the chat messages, and it doesn't matter where they came from and how they set up. So you can do a basic view, a timeline, and sort and organize it that way. But we also have the conversation view, which Geoff showed, so you're on that right now. So if you open it up, you can see it by conversation, and it doesn't matter if your suspect's using 6 different programs. This example just has Kik on it, but there's a few conversations here. But if there was a mix mash of conversations that they were going through, you can get the conversation view this way. Now you can flip over to the other case. Yeah, that's fine. And then so you get the conversation view to group the conversation as you'd like it. Or what I would also do is the column view and just choosing all the chats. Pick a couple of chat programs like.
And just to give an example here, I'm just selecting some chat programs to see. Kik,
Skype, Facebook, messages. Yeah. And so he's just selecting a few of them there. There's a whole bunch from this case. Skype's a good one, yeah. And now you can actually view either the individual messages and do a quick sort on time, and now you can get a quick timeline of activity independent of what chat program was used. So you've got both options there. If you want to get that conversation view, you can do that conversation and just view the conversation as a single story. Or you can go to the column view, sort by date and time, and you can start looking at actual chat conversations as you want to go through it that way. So yeah, it's pretty flexible that way. And then you can also run filters if you want to specifically, if you were just say looking at just Skype messages, for example, the Skype chat messages, just select that for me. You can filter based on users or basic time frames. So if you want to narrow the scope of it, you can do very specific column filters that applies to just that. Yeah, I think Jack's probably in there. So you can do that. And then you can just look at it that way, do a quick sort that way, and you can view the data that way. So it's pretty flexible. That was the whole goal of it, of having the column view for all the individual messages, and you can do some manipulating there. And then also in the conversation view, allowing you to group those per conversation, and it doesn't matter whether it's between apps or anything like that. You get the flexibility for both. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't know if you've got anything to add to it.
Good, and I'll just show you one other view. We have another view that actually works fairly well. This column view, I've got 2 applications here, but you can also do something called row view, which presents those in a little bit different way. So you can see as we transition. And unfortunately, you can sort these by date time, but these are all independent in terms of date time. If these were actually overlapping, you would see these messages interleaved.
Yeah, perfect. Let me see. Another question here. When will support for IEF end? IEF is working for us now, but we don't currently see much reason to upgrade to Axiom if they're just doing the artifacts. If they're just focusing on the artifacts, and that's fine. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, and thanks for asking it. There's no planned end of life date for IEF. We recognize that a lot of our users are using IEF for just artifacts. They're using other file forensics tools for those parts of the workflow. We're continuing to support IEF with artifact updates and maintenance. Certainly we're it's a fully supported product by us. A lot of some new features are coming into Axiom because it has a more robust platform, but those new features aren't necessarily always related just to IEF being used alongside other file forensics tools. So simply put, we're continuing to support IEF. We're releasing new artifacts. Artifacts are being released for Axiom and IEF at the same time, and it is being actively maintained.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. Again, from an artifact, just for my own piece to that, from an artifact standpoint, Axiom and IEF are very similar in that respect. It's really, the value to Axiom is the additional analysis capabilities that you have to it. I know, coming from IEF, there was a lot of things I wish IEF had done, and that's how we built Axiom. We built Axiom based on customer feedback and saying, hey, we really want to we love IEF, but we want it to do this and that. So we added those pieces to it based on what people need. Not everybody needs those features, which is fair, but you're really going to see a lot of new features from an analysis standpoint being added to Axiom. But from a support standpoint, we plan on continuing IEF for the foreseeable future, for sure. So that's a good question. Another question is about Magnet AI, language support. We've had a few of those previously, but maybe you can expand about that in terms of, does it work with other languages, and how that can happen?
That's another great question. So right now, the support we have in Magnet AI is for English luring-based conversations. We are definitely interested in expanding into other languages. The biggest challenge that I had mentioned earlier is getting trained data in those other languages. It's not a matter of us translating our English examples into another language, because there's nuances to the dialogue that we need to appreciate. So, I kind of put this open question to anybody who's interested in Magnet AI and is using it, using Axiom in a different language. Talk to us, because if you're able to partner with us, we can build models for other languages, and that's something we're definitely interested in doing.
Good. There is another one. Oh, could you go back to the other case now? Yep. There is a follow-up they'd like to see a bit more about the Magnet AI, the contextual chat analysis. So maybe another breakdown of it, just so they can get another view of basically what kicks off on the luring and why, like how it recognizes it.
Yeah, that's great. And to be honest, this is the interesting thing about machine learning or AI, is that you have these algorithms that you can train, and what you do is you train them with, in our case, chat threads that are representative of luring. These are chat threads that are representative of luring that have been identified by a trained forensic examiner. And what we've done is we've taken both the chat threads that are luring type, as well as chat threads that are benign, and fed them into a model, and we've trained that model. And with machine learning, we don't necessarily know what the AI triggers on, because it learns on its own. And then it learns to recognize what are the characteristics of a chat thread with luring and the characteristics of a chat thread of benign type. Now, in our development, we had trained the model and labeled data, and then also taken that model and used it on data sets that we hadn't looked at to verify that the model was actually doing what it was supposed to do. And we had high confidence after that it was reliably picking up luring. And what we found since we released it is it actually picks up chat threads that are also indicative of meetups, potentially in the drug space. I mean, we haven't trained it on that, so we're not officially supporting it, but it's triggered on luring messages for sure. It may pick up some other content as well. And as we further train the model, it will be refined, or we can introduce new categories.
Yeah, and just to add that from an examiner standpoint, and from a child exploitation luring standpoint, generally an examiner is going to go through every message. Yeah. They're going to go through every message, and no matter what. It's really the whole concept of Magnet AI and identifying these potential luring conversations is prioritizing the most important ones. There's only about 1,000 chat messages here, but we've seen cases where there are hundreds of thousands of chats going over years and years of data. It's a lot of work for an examiner to go through those. If Magnet AI can prioritize the 5 or 6 conversations that are essential to their case right off the bat, it's going to save them time and energy to do that. So that's a really important piece. And we actually had a couple of customers with pretty quick feedback on how it was really relevant. We had one where they had, as the case was going through, they were tagging and manually themselves tagging a bunch of stuff that was potential luring and identifying them themselves. Once the processing had finished and it kicked off the Magnet AI categorization there, it matched up perfectly to exactly what he had found already on his own, and that, so, you know, that trust comes with time, but that's something that they were quite impressed with, and hopefully that will continue as we continue to expand on it.
And just to go through the mechanics, if I wasn't clear, is what happens is the model itself is run by Axiom as part of a processing step. And really all that it's doing is applying a tag called possible luring. Like I said, this is what I think is the beauty of the feature. It just applies a tag that you can filter on to potential luring messages. So when I go up here, it's my tags and comments filter. All I have to do is select possible luring, and it's going to filter down to the chat threads that have potential luring content. And you know, this is just one example, but this is one of the things that it triggered on. And this is some of the more relevant content to luring type activity. So you can see that up on the screen. What the algorithm has particularly triggered on here, it's hard to see because it's a machine learning algorithm.
And the fact that we actually do use the entire conversation. It's not one particular message that would kick off on that. It's a combination of factors that would actually play into it. A lot of apps and tools will do this based on a particular keyword or content of a particular message. That's not what we're doing here. This is a culmination of a number of factors within the entire conversation that classifies it, and it hits that threshold and allows it to be classified as potential luring. So it's pretty impressive, and I know a lot of people who have tested it out have been very impressed with it. So that's we're pretty excited for it, and we want people to continue to use it and try it out. The follow-up question was, you know, plans on expanding to drugs in other areas. You mentioned on it, it's definitely something we want to do. Child luring and child exploitation investigations are a key thing to us at Magnet in terms of supporting law enforcement in that in regards. So that was obviously a very easy first step for us. But yeah, expanding that to other areas, drugs, terrorism, whatever,
distribution of the images.
Exactly.
As well.
That's definitely something we want to expand on. And like Geoff said, expanding that, really part of that requires help from the community in terms of helping us identify data that contains that sort of information. And like you said, we're definitely interested in working with anybody who can help us with that and provide that with us. So yeah, feel free to reach out, Geoff, myself, or anybody here at Magnet, and we'd certainly like to talk to you in terms of going forward with that. We've got a few options available, so definitely. Any more questions? It looks like I think I saw them all there. Let me just make sure I didn't miss one. When you enter a search term, does it save the search term? Slightly separate, but I can answer that one. That's fine. Depends on where you enter that search term. So that's a good question. If you do just a quick search at the top bar there, it will run the search, it'll apply the filter, and it will, try to find something you got, there we go. It won't save that other than having that option up there. But what you can do is you can go under the keyword lists, or if you had loaded in a keyword list prior to processing, it will save it there. So there's the hit for the individual quick search. So that's not persistent, that won't save it. You can bookmark, tag those, which will save those conversations, but it doesn't save that keyword if you clear your filters. So that's one limitation. But if you go to keyword lists, you can actually import a list there, and that would save them as a returnable option. So you can, I don't have one there for that case, but if you added one and added the keywords to that list, then they get saved. Or if you're in process and you add a list prior to processing, that list gets saved as well. So you have both options available to you. So it really depends on how you add those keywords. The quick search, it isn't meant to save, it's just meant to do a quick one, add, remove, bookmark what you need, and make it disappear sort of thing. But if you add it either through the lists or during processing, it will save those so you can rerun those pretty quickly and over again. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. Any other questions? I think we got a few more minutes left. If not, that's okay. I'll give it a 3 count. 1, 2, 3. No. If that's everything, guys, I want to thank you for joining us. Geoff, I want to thank you for jumping in and helping out with this. It's been very helpful. Some final logistics. Like I said, this web session is recorded, so if you are interested in following up and watching it again, check out our website. It should be up in the next 24, 48 hours. I'm usually pretty quick with that, so hopefully I can get that up for you. And again, feel free to reach out to any of us, Geoff or myself, or anybody else here for that matter. We'd certainly be love to hear your input, what you like, even what you don't like, but hopefully we can take that feedback and add things that you would and go from there. Some jokes on there. I asked the wrong questions, of course, about lotto numbers. All right. With that note, guys, thank you for joining, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.